What's up, artists? We are going to be introduced to clay. So here you can see I am rolling the clay into a sphere or like a nice round ball, having it even as a good start, and then you're going to take your thumb, you're going to poke a little hole into it, don't go all the way through, and then you're going to take your fingers and you're going to kind of pinch around that hole and the outside edge. As you do this, you will see that the hole starts to widen and you get a kind of a basic bowl shape. This is called a pinch pot because you're pinching the edges of the clay and creating a opening. You're creating a pot type shape or a bowl type shape. Now, the more you pinch it, the thinner it's going to get. You don't want it to be too thin because then it'll be really flimsy. You can take your fingers or a sponge and really smooth out those sides. I like a really organic look or a natural look when I do pottery, but you could really get a clean look by using a sponge and brushing over those edges and really making them look nice and even. That's totally up to your style. I like to use an organic, natural shape, especially with a natural material like clay. You can also see that I'm adding water here. Adding water or slip oftentimes evens out things as well. It also makes it a little bit more pliable. Now I'm widening and kind of manipulating the inside of the mouth. You can see, or the pinch pot. Our theme for this is we're going to create creatures. We're going to create monsters. What I'm doing in this part is I'm scoring the clay, which means I'm adding little scratches. And I'm taking what's called slip, which is watered down clay, and I'm adding it to the scoring. You got to score both sides of your material. So I scored the little spheres for the eyes, and then I scored the part of the pinch pot that we created as well. And that way I attached them. This is kind of how glue would work, but instead it's the clay and the slip that adds to it. Remember, if you make something too thin, it's gonna lose its strength. So you really wanna be mindful. Notice how I turned the pinch pot on its side, and now I'm looking at it from above. You can kind of see that the opening is facing me rather than facing away from me. You could work with whatever way is more convenient to you. This is how I operate as an artist. We're gonna create creatures, so think about what you want your pinch pot creature to look like. Does it have one eye? Does it have two eyes? Does it have a mouth? What texture might it be? Does it have teeth? So here I'm going in and I'm manipulating some other tiny pieces of clay, rolling them around in my fingers and my hands, and then scoring the pinch pot on the inside and attaching the teeth. And I just thought this would be kind of a fun, creative way to create a pinch pot monster. This is something that you'll be able to keep forever because once this clay hardens, we're gonna paint it and it'll last a long time. It'll be really cool. So I have a little creature buddy that I like to keep on my desk, this little guy, and maybe that's something that you guys can do for yourself. Maybe you can turn it into a little candy dish. Maybe you can give it to a friend. But you just keep repeating the steps. So anytime you want to attach another piece of clay to another piece of clay, you have to score it, add the slip. The slip is the water/clay mixture, which you can see on the right-hand side. And then you attach it just by pressing it down slightly. You can get as creative with this as you want to. It can be as simple or as complicated as you want. Now, we are creating creatures, so you want to think creature-like. What qualities will your creature have? The last thing I really start to add is I decided I wanted my creature to have his tongue sticking out. To do this, I just took a piece of clay and I kind of flattened it out with my fingers, and then I rolled it and manipulated it to get the shape that I wanted. The nice thing about clay is it's like Play-Doh, which we, for the most part, have all experienced before. It's a really fun and interactive and malleable material, so you can have a lot of creativity with it. If it's not working, maybe change what you're doing and see what you can do to get it to do what you want it to. Art is all about problem solving and critical thinking. If it doesn't work one way, it'll work another way. And your hands are your greatest tool for this project. Don't be afraid to get dirty. Now look at how dirty my hands are in this. It's okay. It's just like mud. It'll wash off. So score and attach. Score and attach. If you don't score it, there's a good chance your clay is not going to stick and it's just going to fall off. So you really want to make sure you're adding the slip and scoring it. So this clay is really wet right now, and as it dries, it's going to start to change colors a little bit. It's going to become harder. It's not going to be like mud. It's going to be more like the consistency of thin cement or something along those lines, maybe dried mud or even like a rock to some type of extent. There's different types of clay. This is an air dry clay, so this is self-hardening. Now, there are other clays that require something called a kiln. A kiln is like a giant oven that fires at really, really, really high temperatures. And it takes clay and turns it into a ceramic type material, which is kind of similar to glass. We're not going to do that with this project. We're just going to focus on the air dry clay and getting it to work with us as best as we can, especially because I only see you guys a couple times a week right now. So there's my creature for now. As you can see, I'm taking a popsicle stick or a craft stick and just kind of smoothing out edges and using my sponge to get nice even sides. This can be as organic or as smooth as you want it to be. It does not have to be perfect, but just try your best per usual. Remember, you gotta score anything that you want to attach. Too much water and your project's gonna fall apart. So you don't want it to be too thin. You want it to be thick, sturdy. That way it's not gonna fall apart. But you can always go back in with stuff like a popsicle stick to add textures, like I'm doing on the tongue here. I also carved out the eye a little bit where the pupil might be, just to give it a little bit more of a character appeal. Notice how I just twist it around and smoothing out those edges again. The nice thing about the clay is you can really work back into things, so you can always manipulate them and change them if you decide you don't like the way something looks. As you can see here, I'm starting to develop and round out my edges. I got my creature's face going, kind of looks like he's screaming. My camera must have fallen at this part, I don't know why. But again, your hands are your greatest tool for this. They will get you, help you achieve this in every way, shape, and form.